Hello vinyl community, Bradley here. This is the next installment of Classic Jazz Vinyl. Today got a couple records. I would say both of them are classics. The first album is by John Coltrane, Giant Steps. Now this was recorded in 1959. I know on one of my earlier videos I confused Blue Train with this album. So Giant Steps was recorded pretty much right after Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, who Coltrane performed on that album. Giant Steps was released in 1959, recorded and released. It's on the Atlantic record label. And I'm not really sure. I'm sure they had a stereo version of this. This right here, it just happens, it is a reissue. It is in mono, which it sounds great. Personnel on this album is, on most of the songs, on all of them except one, Naima. On all the other 6 songs, we have got John Coltrane on tenor sax, Tommy Flanagan on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Taylor on drums. Now on Naima, Wynton Kelly replaces Tommy Flanagan on piano, and Jimmy Cobb replaces Art Taylor on drums. The recording engineer, since he recorded Atlantic, he did not use Rudy Van Gelder. The engineer was Tom Dowd. And on the back of this album, it's got really nice liner notes. And in this section right here, they go into quite good detail of the recording process on this album. It explains what microphones they used, the Telefunken U47 microphone, the Ampac's certain model tape recorder. And it says the sound created by musicians and singers is reproduced as faithfully as possible. Let's see. It says individual microphone equalization is not permitted. Maybe that was the Atlantic Studios. I don't know. But it tells all about what kind of lathe they cut the master on, and it's pretty good detail. Interesting. So anyhow, just a little background on John Coltrane. I won't go into depth because he could go on forever. Coltrane died in 1967. He was only 41 years old when he died. He died of, I think it was liver or kidney cancer. So in his 20 years of recording, he left a big mark on jazz music. And you could even say those first 10 years, he didn't have it together. Basically, it's the last 10 years of his career is where all the fantastic recordings came from. This Giant Steps is his 5th album as a leader. And so anyhow, Coltrane, I think he was in the Miles Davis quintet a couple of times, maybe 55 and 56. And I'm not sure if that's when he was kicked out for his drug use. I think it was. And then he played with Thelonious Monk for a while. And then he went back to Miles Davis. And so the history of his recording, he recorded, I believe, only one album for Blue Note as the main artist, and that was Blue Train. That was 57. Well, then he went to Prestige Records for probably 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And then he went to Atlantic, and this is recorded on Atlantic. Basically, it was a 1-year deal. They gave him a $7,000 annual guarantee. So he took that. So I think he was only with Atlantic maybe 1 year. And then in 1961, Impulse bought out his contract with Atlantic. And so the rest of his career he recorded for Impulse, which Impulse people call it the label that Train built, because Coltrane was the first really big artist on Impulse. So he gave them credibility as a record label. And I will say this right now, on Netflix, currently they have a excellent documentary. It's called Chasing Train, which Train is Trane, as in Coltrane. That's on Netflix. Super documentary. I urge you to see that. So basically, Coltrane's career, it spanned bebop, then late 50s, middle 50s, hard bop, which he was very good at doing jazz standards. And he eventually, and all this is within like 10 years basically, he went to spiritual jazz. That would be A Love Supreme, which I think that was 64. I believe 1964 or 65. Shortly, he didn't live too much longer than that. He died in 67. So, and then he was into one of the leaders in free jazz, avant-garde. Personally, I prefer the Coltrane from his mid-50s to, I like Love Supreme, but he could get into, some pretty wild free jazz, and I am not into that too much. But he left a huge mark on jazz as a saxophonist. He was a good writer, and he was a leader. He eventually became a leader, because I remember hearing in his probably around 55 and in the era before that, band leaders would hear him play, and and they didn't think that much of him. But he spent a couple years cleaning himself up and practicing all the time. So people would see him like 2 years later around Blue Train, and they would be blown away. It's like, wow, this guy's something else. So anyhow, on Giant Steps, the first track is the title tune. Second one, which is really good, is Cousin Mary, actually about his cousin Mary. Countdown Spiral, I believe, is the fourth, which I like that. The second song on the second side, Naima, that's the one with the different musicians on this album. Naima was his first wife, and they eventually got divorced, and he married Alice Coltrane. So anyhow, and most of these songs, actually they're fairly short. You know, sometimes some of the hard bop songs, you know, 8-9 minutes. Most of these are 3.5 to 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes at the very most. So it's a different kind of listen, but this stuff is like really good. I would definitely give it a 5, you know. I'd give the cover art and everything like that, I'd give that a 5 just because it's on Atlantic and something a little different than my usual Blue Note. So, but I would definitely pick that up if you want to expand your jazz. Now the second album, which I love this. This is Sonny Clark, Cool Struttin' on Blue Note. Look at that album cover. This is one of my favorite album covers of all time. And for a long time, it's just a street scene in New York, a guy in a trench coat walking by a car, a woman in high heels. That is actually Alfred Lyon's wife, Ruth, which I never knew for a long time. She was the model, the leg model. So, anyhow, the personnel on this album, which I forgot to mention the personnel on the other. Well, no, I did. Okay. Personnel on this album is, on trumpet, you have Art Farmer, does a fantastic job. Jackie McLean, alto sax, super. Sonny Clark on piano. Paul Chambers on bass. And Philly Joe Jones on drums. Wow. Now I love Sonny Clark. I do not have enough of Sonny Clark. I have to get more. So anyhow, this was on Blue Note, engineered by Rudy Van Gelder. And this was recorded in January of 1958 and released in October of that same year. Now this particular copy is a 75th anniversary reissue. And it sounds good. Sounds very good. It is in mono, which is a little different for these reissues, but sounds great. Little background on Sonny. He died in 1963. He was only 31 years old. He was born in Pittsburgh. I think the official cause of death was heart attack, but OD, I think, whatever. So he was only 31 years old. You know, what a shame. I absolutely love his music. He's really good piano player. I don't know if I would say his technique and skills are fantastic, but he knows how to do accompaniment with the rest of the band. Just, he drives it right along. It's fantastic. Now on this particular album, Struttin', it's got 4 songs. Side 1 is the title song, Cool Struttin'. And the second song is Blue Minor, which was, both of those were written by Sonny Clark. Those 2 songs, it's just, what a classic side of a record. And Paul Chambers, the bass player, on at least one of these songs, Cool Struttin', I think, he has a little bass solo and he uses the bow, you know, like a cello or whatever, for his bass solo. Just ungodly solos. Jackie McLean, Art Farmer sounds fantastic on this. This is good. Now on the second side, it's got Sippin' at Bells, which was written by Miles Davis, which opens with a drum solo by Philly Joe Jones. It starts out more like a bebop-ish type, and then it kind of settles into a more normal hard bop song. Really good. Now the last song on the record is called Deep Night, and it's very good. It was actually written by Rudy Valley, if you remember. He was back in the, what was it, 30s? Always had that megaphone. This is one of them. This is one of my favorite albums. I love Sonny Clark. A rating, I would give it scale 1 to 5. I would give it probably 5.5. He goes, or maybe 6. I don't know. I love this album. As far as the cover art, I would give it a 7. I just love this cover art. How can you get any better than that? But so anyhow, there's both these albums, Coltrane and Giant Steps and Cool Struttin' by Sonny Clark. They're both classics. I would highly recommend getting both. Particularly, I love Sonny Clark. I would. This is a must. That's a must. So this is Bradley. That's it for today. So if you'd like to subscribe or comment or like, please do. I will, and all these records that I'm reviewing, you can pretty much go out and buy them anywhere. You know, you don't have to look around for used copies. If you want the reissues, you can just go out and buy them. So that's it for today. Take care. Have a nice day. Goodbye.